Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of The Pond, episode 53 to be exact. And as you guys can tell, the setup that we're doing for this week is a little different than what we've been doing for the last 3 weeks. It's kind of sad because the tour has come to an end, but we will be back eventually, maybe next summer. I don't know if we'll be able to get anything going by the end of the summer, but
dude, hopefully
whatever.
Sooner. Hopefully sooner than that.
Yeah. We're gonna get a in-person, hopefully in the near future. They're always the most fun episodes, and they always are. They're the most productive. We talk the best. We have some always good things that we bring up when we're in person. And I mean, it's not bad over computer, but it's not the same.
It's not the same. Yeah, being around the fellers in a nice area and just recording,
having some brews.
You kind of look at each other and be like, I kind of know what you're going to say. I don't agree with it. This is why you're wrong. It's a lot better to record in person than across. You can kind of read cues and everything a lot better. So we're going to aim for those more in person. So
100%. Hopefully the stars align. We'll be able to get a lot more in person over the course of this next year, but we'll have to see on that one. But in the meantime, we're making it work.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're crushing out these episodes. The quality of the podcast will never change. It'll only get better from here, okay?
And that's a
I hesitated to say it, but yeah, but
and going on that note, Taylor Hall signed.
Well, boys,
exactly.
I guess we can jump off with that because that's a quick one. Taylor Hall signed a 4-year deal. $6 million a year, I believe. $6.5 million a year in Boston. So that hits exactly the over-under we set. We set it at 4 years, so there was a possibility for a tie. So nobody will be shotgunning the Coffee Crisp milkshake. But
too bad.
Yeah, too bad. But we do still have to set an over-under for points, or maybe we'll do points per game for him next season. But we'll probably wait till we're closer to the beginning of the season for that, so we can kind of see what the Bruins lineup looks like. So I can make you guys shotgun a Coffee Crisp milkshake because I have a lot of belief in the dude.
No, but you do have some beef with him.
I will if he chokes, dude. You better pop off. But
hey, you never know. That's the thing. That's the best part about Taylor Hall is you never know what you're gonna get.
You really don't know what you're gonna get. It's true.
Yeah.
But dudes, before we get into since we last talked, there's been an expansion draft. There's been a bunch of signings, a bunch of trades, and then there's also been the entry draft. So we have a shit ton of stuff to get through this week. Hopefully we'll be able to do it in a reasonable amount of time, but with this one might go a little bit long. We'll have to see. But first off the bat, some important news, and I think this is really fun to see. Well, it's good to see at least. Is Luke Prokop, prospect for the Nashville Predators, has come out as gay. I think he was drafted last year, and is expected to at least compete for an NHL spot this coming year. And so he becomes the first openly gay active player on an NHL, not NHL roster, but in an NHL organization, I believe. And first of all, that's a big deal in and of itself. But also he got, the amount of support he got from around the league was really, really good to see. Because we have seen that in other sports where people don't really get the support. Like in the NFL, we've seen people not really get the support that you would hope they would from their peers around the league. So really good to see that the guy coming out has had support from not only his teammates in the organization, but people around the league sending him messages over Twitter, and I'm sure people reached out personally as well. So awesome to see, and hopefully it fosters a more inclusive environment, especially with the Diversity Alliance as well. I mean, seems like they're taking some steps in the right direction, although we will, I think, have to circle back to that when we get into the entry draft later. But definitely something we felt like we should mention because it's a huge deal, to be honest.
Takes a lot of guts to do that, man. Being in that scenario, I can only imagine, saying something like that in being a professional athlete too, where it can have, I mean, you always say that it's the right thing to just speak your mind and obviously communicate that stuff, but they also have to feel comfortable doing it too, and not knowing the reactions of people around them that they're going to be playing with every day and everything, and seeing the support has been good. And man, maybe he'll rip it up now that he's
clean. Wouldn't that be awesome?
Holding nothing back. It's good for just building the game, getting more people.
100%, dude. 100%.
Especially because especially recently, there's been a lot of stuff that's come out about the league being less inclusive than everybody, or that it portrays itself to be. So it's good to see that at least if there's 2 steps being taken back somewhere else, this is definitely a good step forward. So
for sure,
step in the right direction for the league for sure.
Yeah.
So
and
sick.
I mean, boys, talking about steps in the right direction, a team that has not taken a step in the right direction, and actually their first step, is the Seattle Kraken.
Yeah.
I mean, dudes.
Yeah.
We talked last week. We were like, man, this team looks like they could end up with a really good looking roster. Looking at some of the deals that they could potentially make, some of the people left unprotected. And I don't know if Ron Francis is like, I honestly don't even know what to say. Like, their team looks like dog shit. And I think you guys probably agree with me on that one. Like, some of the people they decided not to pick, it seems nonsensical. Like, they didn't even get anything for not picking some players that you would expect to be top players on an expansion team. So what are your guys' thoughts on that, man? Because I'm like very, very disappointed in how the Seattle Kraken handled this draft.
From what I taken from this draft is that the teams, and I obviously saw this isn't what I had thought of right away, because it is a very good point with the people that are in the league communicating with people like GMs, general managers, GMs, like I just said that first time, but players and everything, and just seeing what they talk about and the trades that Vegas had set up before the draft even started, because these GMs didn't want to have the team actually select the player that they wanted. So this time they kind of went around and just didn't make any trade, just allowed them to take one player, because obviously looking at Vegas taking Riley Smith and Jonathan Marchessault from Florida for someone else to take another player that they have, that was taking 3 good assets, and it kind of stuffed them, like just with how they could develop and everything. So I think GMs were just not looking to make the same mistakes that they had the last time, and they've kind of learned off their lessons. So
yeah, although I mean, also we've heard, at least we were hearing that that Seattle was driving a really hard bargain in terms of what they wanted to pick people or to not pick people, and it definitely seems like it backfired, because like they ended up with practically nothing. I mean, I'm trying to pull it up right now, but you compare what they got on draft day in terms of like side deals and stuff like that with what Vegas got, and it's just like
it's night and day.
Yeah, you can't even compare the two.
Yeah.
So I mean,
some of the guys that they mentioned. Sorry to cut you off, Mike.
No, go for it.
Some of the guys that were like mentioned, I was like, who? And that's no offense. These are probably just a lot of guys that have only just gotten into the league, or like are very, very young, that they haven't made a splash yet. So I don't know. And the fact, actually, you know what? We'll talk about it later. I was going to mention something, but I don't want to.
I remember saying the same thing about Vegas's draft, though, going, yeah, this team's not going to be good. They'd be lucky to even win a game.
That's fair.
And they did really, really well. I remember everyone kind of being like, Vegas was winning the first couple games of the season, and everyone's like, is this for real? Is this for real? And then they go to the Cup final that year.
Yeah.
So I was just curious, does this hurt Seattle? Because they kind of did draft one of those teams that doesn't really look good on paper and might not actually translate to being good on the ice, you know?
Yeah.
Just looking at their lines and everything, Yanni Gourde centering the first line.
With Donskoy and...
Yeah, like... I don't know, man. Like, you look at their lines throughout, and I just don't know if they're going to be able to compete on a nightly basis. They might show up a couple games, but I don't know if they're going to be able to really get 30, 40 wins to
Yeah.
make it to the playoffs. So,
Well,
and
and like, sorry, a quick point. You look at the third line. Morgan Geekie is on their like starting third line lineup. Where
yeah,
in Carolina he was on the taxi squad for pretty much the whole season. Like,
yeah,
and it's like he's
dude,
making your third line.
that's a great point, because that's basically what I was gonna say. Like, I don't like, maybe the team will be better than we think it's gonna be, but you look at some of the picks they made and some of the people they didn't take, and Carolina's a great example, right? And we're gonna have to dive into Carolina because they've been making some very weird moves.
Yeah.
But picking Morgan Geekie, who I don't think he's a bad player by any means, but as you said, didn't get a lot of game time with Carolina this year. Definitely are other players for Carolina that you would think are more desirable. Nino Niederreiter being one of them. Jake Bean being another. Both left unprotected. And even if you want a center, like, Steve was very, very good this year. And, you know, he played basically in Morgan Geekie's position in the NHL for most of the season. So it's like hard to understand some of those choices. And
yeah,
I mean, the only thing you can really think is they've kept a shit ton of cap space just to take runs at free agents. And like we were talking before the expansion draft about Eichel coming in, but like I don't even think they have capital to make a trade for Jack Eichel unless they want to give up their first round picks for like the next 4 years.
Yeah.
that's actually funny. I was just thinking about this when you were talking. Ron Francis, the GM for Seattle, was the former GM of Carolina. So I think he might have drafted Steve.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but he might have also drafted Morgan Geekie. So maybe you see something with Geekie that he likes and having that experience, and now he can kind of get the actual opportunity to succeed in a role that's consistent minutes on a nightly basis. So that's very
yeah. I mean, but like you go down the list, man. Like some of the people they didn't take, it's like, oh, okay, they didn't take that person because they've made a side deal. Is it Kakkonen from Minnesota? You would expect if you're not going to pick him, there's got to be some sort of side deal there. Max Domi was someone, I don't hate it if you don't take him, but that's someone that you would think they'd look at.
Like a third, fourth liner, he'd be good, if that was what you wanted him to do. You know,
you look at Philly. I don't even know who the fuck they took from Philly. Didn't recognize the name at all. Which isn't to say he's a terrible player, but Jacob Voracek was left on the board. So was James Van Riemsdyk. Vlad Tarasenko in St. Louis, another one that I don't hate if you don't take him, but you'd think, like, you go into this as a neutral fan, you want to see them take some swings, and it feels like they didn't take any swings. And maybe it's kind of what we were kind of speculating about, is that maybe they're not looking to win right away. They're going to try to build a good prospect pool and draft well. But even then, they didn't really build themselves many prospects or many extra draft pieces in the next coming years, right? Like they kept all their picks, but they didn't really add anything either. So I don't know, man. It's a weird one.
We're gonna have to just wait and see, obviously, with you know, all the stuff that's been going on, because I feel like, you know, if we jump the gun too early right now, there could be so many other things that are in the works as we're, you know, talking about this stuff. So I feel like everything happens for a reason when it comes to this stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
well, yeah. And there are UFAs that they could still sign, right? Like Dougie Hamilton's unsigned. Friggin' technically Alex Ovechkin is unsigned. And not that I expect him to move, but there's plenty of players that they can add in free agency that could make this team look a lot better than it currently looks. It just feels like they already could be better than they are had they drafted differently. But I mean, as you guys said, like everyone said this about Vegas too, and look how they turned out. So maybe we're wrong here, but I can't help but feel that Seattle kind of misplayed this entire expansion draft a little bit.
And I mean, we'll find out very quickly because with them kind of. It's also a year that they're going to be playing all the teams in the league, right? So you're going to be able to get a feeling very quickly if they're going to be able to sink or swim. Get it, Kraken against the big teams. You know what I mean? So we'll see how it goes, right? But that top line is it's
good, but it's third line
good. Or second line good. Like I'll give them benefit of the doubt. It's second line good.
Yeah,
but it's
to me they took a lot of guys that are like the shutdown guys on the team that they were taken from. They're kind of the guys that was sent out there on the penalty kill or sent out on the last minute of play that they don't really put up points, but they kill penalties and they don't let the top guys score. So maybe it'll work, but
I mean, I will give it to them. They've got decent top end defensemen. Taking Mark Giordano, that's going to help with your defense core no matter what. Although I don't know how long he's still going to be in the league.
People were saying that he's trade bait.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, they could still flip him, right? I don't know if I see that, but and then a goaltender, right? Vanacek, Dreger, they got Decord from Ottawa. Like they do have good goalie picks here. So build from the back forward, right? But I am concerned. Like I don't really see where they're gonna get their scoring from. But I mean, we'll have to see. We will have to see. They got a tough division. So I mean, it's gonna, as you said, it's gonna be sink or swim pretty quickly.
We should before the season starts, we should do just to throw a number out there of what position you think they're gonna the exact number of what you think they're gonna finish this season. Like overall standings, 1 to 32.
I'm thinking.
Well, no, we'll do it before right before the season starts.
One out right now.
Or point total.
Yeah. Oh yeah. True. We could do both. Fuck it, both. Yeah. Hey, Coffee Crisp on the line once again. there will be a Coffee Crisp shotgun at some point. It's not getting out of here, boys.
No, it's
now
happening.
It's one of the fucking jalapenos that I've grown because I had a little sliver of one on the weekend and it blew my fucking head off.
Oh yeah,
it was so hot. Started crying and
there you go.
Just ruined my sandwich that I was eating, but.
We'll put one of those in the Coffee Crisp.
Ooh.
Deadly. Yeah. But boys,
I would die.
Yeah, we should move on. I mean, I don't know if there's much more to say about Seattle. But there were during the expansion draft, between the expansion draft and the entry draft, and since then, there have been some massive trades, massive signings. We got to get into a lot of these. We already mentioned the Taylor Hall one. That's going to be a big one for this podcast because, as you know, we have
a lot of implications.
Yeah, we have a bit of a debate going on how good Taylor Hall really is. But I guess let's go. Ooh, I forget what happened first. Okay, no, let's talk Philadelphia because last week we were talking about Philadelphia. They had just made a move, brought in Ryan Ellis, shipping out Nolan Patrick and Philippe Myers. Since then, they have made... Okay, first of all, one of probably the most insulting trades of all time.
Chuck Fletcher. Stupid.
Okay, so they sent Shane Gostisbehere to Arizona and a second-round pick and a seventh-round pick in 2022 for free just to get rid of Shane Gostisbehere, which...
I don't know has that ever been done?
I mean, it's for future considerations. I'm sure there's been trades like that, but dude.
But the way what is Philly trying to say? Are they rebuilding by dumping him, or are they trying to go for it by dumping him and get someone with that cap? Because they did sign him pretty high.
I think so.
Or are they rebuilding? Chuck Fletcher's, he didn't know what the fuck he's doing.
Yeah, he's out to lunch.
He's out to lunch. He messed up Minnesota's team. I just want to say this real quick because he's a big idiot.
Big idiot. Let's
Chuck
go.
Fletcher sucks.
Okay.
Big assers. He just absolutely ruined Minnesota Wild, and he got fired. And I feel like that's the only future that's coming for him. He's going to get dumped on.
Oh,
that's the same. Okay, who's Vancouver's GM? Same thing.
Oh, Jim Benning.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Him and Jim Benning, and they don't even fucking know it.
Dude, I thought I had hope for Jim Benning after the move they made, but then I looked at it like more closely. It was like, oh fuck. But no. So I think this is basically they're saying they think Shane Ghost to Spears sucks, and so they're like, we don't want to be paying him that type of money because he does have a pretty fat contract. I'm trying to
like what, 6.5?
Oh, really?
I think it might be more than that.
Because Ghost came in the one year and they're like, this guy is like Erik Karlsson, like he's got things, and he started putting up numbers and everything, had good years, and it was decent. And now he just
fell off.
Yeah.
I figured.
Falling apart.
It's an annual salary of 4.5. That's not even bad.
Oh
yeah.
Okay.
So really bad, insulting.
I'm pretty sure what they're trying to do is just get rid of that cap so that they can put it into what they already have in the last.
Yeah, well, but here's the thing: this is a team that doesn't really have anybody they need to sign, right? So it's like that cap space, in theory, is going straight towards signing free agents. Maybe a Dougie Hamilton, I guess. I don't really know. But it's a weird one, dude, because you're giving up a second and a seventh. Like, that's a decent return just to get rid of a guy. I don't really think Shane Gostisbehere is that bad. Like, this guy can quarterback power plays well. Definitely had a down season the last couple of years, but I think he can still contribute. So, very weird.
I don't think he's that worthless for being on one team his whole career.
Yeah.
If he was on a couple other teams and he still had that deal, I could absolutely see that happen. But for him being on the same team, like, honest to God, I think he's just going to go and replace OEL's role on Arizona. They're going to be a rebuilding team. He's going to get top minutes. He can make mistakes. I bet you he'll put up decent numbers. And Arizona's they've loaded up on picks for how many they lost from all that corruption.
Dude, I was thinking, like, we'll get in because they're in another trade too, but if they still had their first and second round picks, they would have so many draft picks. They still have a lot as it is, and they're missing all of their own. But yeah, so that's one that's weird. They've also, Philly, in another deal, going 1-for-1, Jake Voracek for Cam Atkinson.
Another terrible trade.
Like, dude, I don't really. Yeah, I don't know. Like, are you? Maybe okay. I think Cam Atkinson fits like what they're looking for in a player. He's big. He's pretty fast. He can put the puck in the net. And Voracek, maybe you see, is like on the decline a little bit, but I can't help but feel that you're not. I don't know. I don't think they're that close. At the beginning of this year, I thought they were pretty close to a winning team, but looking at it now, I'm not so sure. I'm not sure. Weird trade from both sides because, like, I don't really know what Columbus is getting out of that either.
Yeah. Well, I actually, from having having him on my fantasy hockey team like multiple years in a row, I've noticed that like Cam Atkinson does put the work in, like he is exactly what you said, a big dude that puts the puck in the net, and like
I'm pretty sure he's small though.
Is he?
Well, he plays a physical game.
Yeah, he plays a big game.
He plays a big game.
I can understand that.
Which is valuable in on any team, right? And then he can score, which Philly was having very long periods of like scoring a bunch and then not scoring any at all, and it was like, all right, where are we getting these inconsistencies? And then they've made all these changes to the to their defense core to try to get some going, because I think a big problem with them was the fact that they were leaving Carter Hart. What the fuck? How did I forget him? They were leaving him out to dry pretty much every game, right? So replace the defenseman, toss another forward in. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Philly make more moves before the start of the season in order to try and change their top 6 to try to get something going.
Well,
I wouldn't be surprised.
Here's the weirdest part about the whole thing is that they've also brought in Rasmus Ristolainen. So they've effectively traded Shane Gostisbehere, Robert Hagg, a first-round pick, 2 second-round picks, and a 7th-round pick for Rasmus Ristolainen. Dude, okay, here's the thing. I think Rasmus Ristolainen sucks. Like, obviously he doesn't suck. I don't think he's very good. And he's getting paid more than Gostisbehere's getting paid, and I don't think he's as good of a player. So it's like, you got a bigger guy.
Well, he's not worth that.
What's that?
Like what you just said, all that stuff?
Yeah,
he's not worth that. That's for sure.
Hell no, dude. You could get like a legit first liner for that. Holy shit. So Philly just throwing their team out the window right now. Hard to figure out what the thought process is there.
The only one that I like is that Cam Atkinson one, because I like Cam Atkinson.
Yeah.
He was like him, Nick Foligno, and a couple other players were like the heart and soul of Columbus
for a long time.
And now you can obviously, it's actually a pretty good segue into the other one we're going to talk about. But with everything that's happening in Columbus, there's a lot of players that they get drafted there, but they just don't want to stick around there. And being a Senators fan, that's something that I'm familiar with too, and it sucks as a fan base to see all these players. But I mean,
I feel like it's a culture though. Like I feel like it's a culture.
Well, it's just sometimes the direction and actually utilizing your chances. Columbus gave away 2 first-rounders and like a lot of picks for Matt Duchene and Ryan Dzingel when they went on that decent run and beat Tampa Bay. They swept them. And then they had this kind of the same thing happen with all their other players. They just kind of shipped them away. And I lost Panarin and Bobrovsky for free. So
but here's the thing. Like, I feel like I liked those moves by Columbus at the time. Big balls on Kekalainen to just be like, yep, we're going to let Panarin, we're going to let Bobrovsky go for free. We're going to try and win now. Once they leave for free, you have, like, Foligno is aging, and you have this core of really talented guys, Cam Atkinson, Seth Jones, where it's like, you're probably not going to win anytime soon, having just lost your 2 best players for free. So it, I think, was just eventually going to have to happen that they move those guys out and move them for picks and prospects. And I'd say they got a decent return for Jones. I mean, Adam Bachfist, 12th overall this year, 2022 first and a 2021 second round pick. For Seth Jones, 32nd overall and a 6th round in 2022. So a bunch of picks there, 2 firsts and a second for a late first. The first pick of the second round and a 6th. And Adam Bachfist is a legit good defenseman. Hasn't quite put together in the NHL yet, but this guy's nasty.
Yeah. It's I don't know. I like it's crazy because we saw that Seth Jones got traded, and then like the same notification I saw, or the one down, was like, oh yeah, and he just signed a massive deal.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit, that just happened so fast. And I mean, it's not like I wasn't expecting that with a defender like Seth Jones, but I mean, it just completely flipped my mind, because now that solidifies the fact that Chicago is going on a run, and they're going to try to squeeze out every little bit of like juice out of Taves and Patrick Kane's careers left to see, because those guys are like, if you want a team to go on a cup run, one of those two, if not both, are going to lead you there.
Yeah.
You know, so Seth Jones being on the blue line is really big for them. So 9.5 though. What, like
9.5 times 8 years too. That's a shit ton of money. I think that makes him the 3rd highest paid defenseman in the league, behind Erik Karlsson and Drew Doughty.
Yeah.
And then just ahead of Yossi Subban Makar. But I think that's fair. I mean, he's just entering his prime. He's shown what he can do. He can play 30 minutes a night. And I kind of love this.
Yeah.
I love this from Chicago for a number of reasons. First of all, Stan Bowman, their GM, came out last year, beginning of the season, and said, we're rebuilding. And Taves and Kane were like, wait, what? We're not down to do that. We want to win. And then I think Chicago showed us, at least the first half of the regular season this past year, they still have it. Like, they can be good. So Seth Jones gives you a chance to win with those guys. But I think they also have a decent young core. You're looking Kirby Doc. What's the guy's name? Starts with a K.
His other Colton Doc, his brother.
No, it's not.
That just got drafted.
Let's look up their lines quick.
Yeah.
The guys on their line.
Yeah.
He was actually money. Like, he was ripping the puck on a daily basis.
Kubalik.
Well,
and then they have another guy that was decent, and then obviously
they have
DeBrincat's
two
in
guys,
there.
actually.
Yeah, so
They have two good young guys.
Yeah, so I like it in that sense as well, that they have a good young core that can make them good past Taves and Kane, I think. And Seth Jones is the type of defenseman you probably want to build a team around. So I really like this move from Chicago. It's not what I expected, but looking at it, I kind of love it.
Yeah, I mean, Seth Jones, you lose Duncan Keith, one of the bigger defensemen, and locker room presence in the locker room, or in the change room, whatever. But Seth Jones, younger version of Duncan Keith, where he could still win some Norris
100%.
trophies in the future, kind of be that replacement in that position, and maybe Kirby Dak has a
Kirby Dak
has a bounce back year.
Yeah.
Because he's been in speculation of trades and everything recently, especially with Seth Jones, that he could be traded or his Bachfist. So
he's a special dude. I don't think but I don't know. They got a good young group of guys, and to be fair, looking at this lineup, it honestly looks pretty filled out. You also got to take into consideration, DeBrincat is a beast.
40 goals easy.
Pius Suter.
Yep.
Yeah, Pius Suter is looking like he was scoring 15, 20 if it was a full season, if not more.
Philip Kurashev as well. Kurashev looked nasty. And then on top of that, dude, Jonathan Taves is back. You got to remember, Jonathan Taves didn't play a single game this season. And that's your captain. So, I really like that. And I feel like defensively, especially as you said, losing Duncan Keith, Seth Jones fits in there so nicely. So I'm excited to see what they can do now, because damn, dude.
Yeah, we're looking at not only the age, but also just the height of these players. And dude, I'm pretty sure the average height of this team is 6'3", 6'4".
Kirby Doc's brother is 18 and he's 6'4".
That's fucked. and that's including, that average is including DeBrincat, who's 5'2", so not actually 5'2", but he's short as shit.
He's pretty close. Yeah, he's 5'7".
Yeah, so there you go. But I guess another defenseman, boys, another big signing, and Cale Makar, 6 years, $9 million a year, AAV. This is a big signing. I mean, it's a lot to pay for a young guy, but as we saw, Heiskanen coming in at 8.45, you had to assume Makar was going to get a little bit more than that. So they go a little bit lower on the term, only 6 years, $9 million a year. Maybe I don't think you could say it's an overpay. And if this guy's career trajectory is anything like it seems, that's gonna be a bargain in a couple of years. But Colton, you're the Colorado fan. Any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, so when I first said it out loud, I said it to Kurt, and Kurt was like, "Oh," and I was like, "Yeah, that's a big number. I know it's a big number." Because I've been so critical of Dubas and when he was in Toronto, or while he's been in Toronto, saying, all right, we got 4 guys with in almost double-digit contracts. How is this going to work in the long run? That was pretty much what I was saying. So, and then I know Joe wouldn't sway that far. Like he's not gonna go into double digits for all three guys, right? Like all three on the top plus Makar.
Yeah, well, it's almost
So
unheard
that
of
being
to pay
said,
a defenseman double digits.
well, exactly, right? So, and to be fair, like if Makar had said 9.5 to match Seth Jones or even taken 10, like if you're Joe Sakic, you kind of have to, yeah, you have to, even if it's a 1.5 like $1 million difference. This guy's you know, a millennial type player where you're not going to see somebody like him for a long time, right? So I like the number. A lot of people are like, and Mike, you even said this too, the term being 6 years. I'm not really too worried, and I know there was a couple quotes that were a little bit alarming, like or the ways that he said
I
it.
had said to you because there's only 1 year that he's not
right. Into
it only buys 1 year of UFA protection.
Which to me is like, I don't think that there's like doubt in my mind that Makar wouldn't re-sign. I think he would probably, depending on how Colorado does in the next 6 years. But to me, still, like if I were a general manager, I would be concerned looking at just the 1 year. But like you said, I think Joe Sakic isn't ready to kind of like commit long term to his team because that gives you the flexibility to build better teams, knowing that your deals don't last that extra 2-3 years.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
like, and he's seen a couple other teams, like, for example, a team like Chicago, where back in the day when they were when they won it was 3 cups in 5 years or something like that.
Yeah.
They locked it was Duncan Keith, it was Seabrook, it was Kane, Taves, Crawford to long-term deals.
Yep.
And it ended up being like that. It worked. Yeah. They won 3 cups in 5 years, which is that hardly ever happens. We've only ever seen like Pittsburgh be as dominant in the last 20-ish years, right?
Yeah.
So that being said, it was like you overextend and then like with the term and, you know, might have to towards the end have to move him out or buy him out, right? So my last thing that I'm going to say on the UFA part in terms of the term, he said, like, these are quotes from him. He said, this is a team that has the potential to win and win now. You don't want to get in the way of any of that. I just tried to take something that would work for both sides, which is fair because he knows he deserves a lot of money, right? And I think he also was saying that because he knows McKinnon would probably be in his ear being like, buddy, you know, look what we're doing here. All right. Like, and then he said about the Landeskog, he commented, he said, we want all of us back, especially Landy and and obviously Grubauer. They're such key pieces to our team. We know as a group, our time will come. So that to me doesn't really say like, hey, I'm going to leave this team anytime soon.
He's trying to do some marketing for his team.
Yeah.
To Landy and Grubauer too. Saying, hey guys, let's keep this going.
Well, and his deal getting done takes away from the attention of that Landeskog deal has gotten.
Well, now you know what you can work with.
Exactly, and that's exactly what Joe said in an interview too. He said, now we narrow down our number even more.
So. And here's the thing. I really like the term, actually. And it's an interesting contrast. I think in a lot of ways it's very similar to the Matthews deal in Toronto, where he takes less in terms of term. Yeah. Obviously gets paid. And in Toronto, it's like, oh shit, he's gonna leave. And then we're fucked. Should have locked him in longer. Maybe that's true, maybe it's not. But in Colorado, I like the lower term because, I mean, first of all, they have a history like with McKinnon. They do talk about, you know, maybe taking a little bit less to build a good team. Cale Makar, obviously coming off an entry-level contract, still wants to make sure he gets paid, right? It's one thing to take a discount after you've made your money. It's another thing to do it on your first big contract. So I'm looking at this. He's taken home $54 million, 6 years at $9 million a year. $54 million. That's more money than most people earn in a career, right? So then you're looking, dude. So you can look at it 2 ways. 6 years from now, he's going to be what, 27, 28, walking in probably middle of his prime. If he hits free agency, who knows? With the cap going up a little bit a couple years from now, who knows what he can get on the open market? But also you can look at it the other way and say, hey, we're 6 years in. Maybe we won a cup. Maybe we haven't. I've made my $54 million. Maybe I'll take a little bit less now. And it gives you that freedom, as you guys said, where it's like he's not locked in for 8 years. So you can go back to him 6 years or 5 years with a year left and say, hey, what would you think about taking 7? We'll give you a longer deal. So maybe his next deal is 7 a year for 8 years, locks him in till his mid-30s, gives him the same dollar value in terms of total contract, another 56. But in AAV, it gives you a little bit more cap flexibility. So in that respect, I really like the deal. And I mean, $9 million, I don't really think you could expect to pay him any less than that on the current deal. Given what Heiskanen got, you have to pay him more. You just do. And I mean, the one concern I have now, and it's not for Colorado, is how much is Quinn Hughes going to get paid? Because Jim Benning, as we've maybe mentioned a couple times, doesn't exactly fill you with confidence. I think there's an argument to be made to pay Quinn Hughes more than Makar. So that's going to be a scary one.
Well, the Makar one to me makes me think that it's kind of like a Landeskog, because he's kind of looking for that range too of $9 million. Maybe he thinks, am I actually really worth $9 million? And maybe he takes $7 million or something with Colorado. Looking at their cap and everything, they got $20 million right now in cap space, but they still got to think about McKinnon coming off soon.
He has 2 more years,
6.3 mil, and then Burakovsky's getting paid a lot coming off in 1 more year,
right?
Or I guess right now, right? Yeah, right now. So $5 million, is Burakovsky worth $5 million? Maybe
on a different team,
$4 million.
But what is he playing? Second, third line? Like,
playing second line.
Yeah.
So
I mean, gives them a little bit of flexibility.
Yeah,
they have room to work with. That's for sure.
I think now they can focus on Grubauer, they can focus on Landeskog, get those deals done, and then after that, everybody else will just fall into place. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I think Grubauer is the big one, right? You need to have a number 1 goalie, and he's shown that he is, and that those are not easy to come by. So. Lock him up, see what you got left, and I mean, Landy might hit the open market and not get the offers he thinks he's going to, and then come back to Colorado, say, hey, so, but that's hard to say. A lot of guessing work going on there, but
everything happens behind closed doors, so we only get like this much information. That's
exactly it. But 2 more deals before we talk about Carolina, because that Carolina, goddamn it. But quickly, Buchnevich going to the St. Louis Blues for Sammy Blais and a 2nd-round pick next year. I love Buchnevich. Had him on my fantasy teams this year. Popped off for me. Very fun player to watch. Has size, has skill. This one took me by surprise. In terms of what they got for trading him, it's very, very lopsided for St. Louis. But you do have to consider cap space, and the Rangers being a team that has been considered in the front running for the Jack Eichel sweepstakes. You think maybe they're dumping some cap here, giving themselves a little bit of flexibility to make that run for Eichel, which I think we can all agree would put them right into the conversation as a cup contender if they're not already. So from that point of view, it does make a little bit of sense. On the other hand, I think this is very, very high risk because, I mean, if you don't get Jack Eichel, you just lost a player, and I don't really think Sammy Blais replaces that, So weird one. This one took me really by surprise, but I don't know how you guys feel. I also don't know Sammy Blais as a player that well, so.
Immediately when I heard this deal, I thought, yes, this is exactly what Chris Drury wants to do, being the GM of the New York Rangers. He wants to set the tone, immediately say, we're not fucking around this year. we're going to use our players to act like the absolute maximum. Buchnevich was a loved guy in the locker room. Like everyone, like he was one of the better guys to get along with.
Yeah.
So to me, having one of those guys that's a locker room guy kind of hurts them, going kind of sending a message saying, hey, we can have fun playing all we want, and we can all be best friends off the ice, but we still got to win and compete. We can't settle for this half-ass shit and never make it to the playoffs consistently, because they are one of those teams that they've been around for so long that they're like Chicago, they're like Montreal. They got to be in there pretty consistently, aside from these other teams that rebuild for most of the time and then have a little bit of success. So
yeah,
he's setting the tone for the Rangers this year. And because I was on the train last year for the Rangers and they fell flat on their face, I'm going to go back on the train this year. Let's get back. They're going to be a good team.
I'm hopping on right with you there, bud. I absolutely love the Rangers lineup. And dude, I like, especially we've talked a lot about Gallant. I think they're going to be a wagon, dude.
I think he's going to whip those boys into shape.
Oh yeah.
I actually, I have a little bit of a theory. When it comes to the Rangers, I personally think that Buchnevich goes, yeah, okay. I don't necessarily like that move either, but I thought about it and I was like, okay, but you got to think about it. They have so many young guys that are looking to fill roles as soon as possible. And like, I think the Rangers kind of got caught a little bit because they thought that Kakko and Lafreniere were going to be able to fit in and make an impact right off the bat, which it wasn't that case. So I think that if a deal gets done with Eichel, I don't think it's going to be a long-term deal. I think it's going to be a short, maybe a 1 to 2 year prove it type deal.
But
and then to see if it works.
Eichel's still on an 8-year deal. He's still got like 5 years left. So they just have to trade for him.
Well, yeah, but, right. And it's like if making a trade like that to the Rangers, it makes sense, especially since they've been looking for a number one center, even though they don't think that Zibanejad is able to fill that role. Yeah. I mean, they just lost. They just lost like a guy that would seriously help in terms of scoring, right? Yeah. So maybe Lafreniere or Kakko are able to move up to that first line and make a little bit of a move in this next season. Maybe they like what they're seeing and they don't go for Eichel at all, right? Yeah. So I don't know.
Well, that is a good point. That it is like they had enough high-end guys that they kind of tried to fit in Kakko and Lafreniere in like second, third line roles. And I mean, Lafreniere did decently well by the end of the season, playing higher up the lineup. So maybe you're looking at a guy like Buchnevich and thinking, well, I can't play this guy on the third line, but he is kind of filling a spot that ideally you want Laffy or Kakko to be filling. So if you can get that contribution from Lafreniere or Kakko instead for significantly less money, it's probably not the worst trade. And you do have to think they also bring in Barclay Goodrow on a long-ass deal in that bottom six, right? Yeah. So you added some grit there. You have one guy to kind of push those younger guys up the lineup, and then maybe you see Buchnevich as kind of being a placeholder in that spot, and you kind of need to get rid of him to give those younger guys that opportunity on the first line or on the second line. So maybe. And then obviously if they can pull out Jack Eichel or some such thing, that's just the cherry on top.
If they were to take Eichel, I think they would shorten their window to win significantly because they'd be giving up a lot.
Yeah,
right?
It depends what they give up.
It would not just be an easy, like, let's go. Like, I think they need to kind of just play it safe. And if they're going to give up a lot for Eichel, then they're no longer in rebuild at all. No. Even though I know they said that they were doing it, and then they kind of transitioned out of that phase. I think they're going to be diving right back into it if things don't work out and they sign Eichel to a long-term deal. You're giving up at least Adam Fox. At least.
No, I think Adam Fox is untouchable. I mean, the guy just won the Norris Trophy.
Yeah, but when it like if it was even if it was just for a 1-for-1 trade, which this would never happen, Eichel and Fox.
No.
you're not going to keep Fox.
No, but you
right?
just don't make that deal if you're the Rangers.
Well, yeah, it's I don't know.
Okay,
I think you do.
let's say Zibanejad, Kako, and a first. I think that makes you better right off the bat, and you might even be overpaying a little bit. You probably could get away with 2 of those.
I think it depends
first and a second.
Yeah, it depends on Jack Eichel's physical state.
Yeah,
if he's able to play, then it works.
Yeah.
If he has to go for surgery, then
I think he definitely has to go for surgery, but is he going to be able to play when he comes back? But I kind of agree. I think like the Rangers look good enough. I don't think they necessarily need Eichel. I think they'd be a powerhouse with him if they could get the right deal done. But maybe that's not possible. We don't know. But one more trade here. Well, 2 more, but one another big one by Arizona. Sending Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Connor Garland to Vancouver for Jay Beagle, Louis Eriksson, Antoine Roussel, and I guess the 9th overall pick. And then Arizona kept 12% of Ekman-Larsson's cap hit. So Arizona loading up on picks, picking up salaries left and right to kind of build that up. Definitely tanking. Shane Wright, look out, buddy. And going the other way. I mean, Connor Garland and OEL to Vancouver. Right off the bat, I loved this. I thought, oh, wow, Jim Benning, what are you doing, buddy? Like, that's a decent trade. Connor Garland, great player. OEL hasn't looked great in Arizona, but I think we all kind of think maybe in a different environment on a better team, the guy still has contributions.
He's like Duchesne. He's been asking for a trade for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
He's kind of been fed up with their shit and what's going on with Chayka and everything. Like having that like time where, okay, we might be good and everything. Where Chikrin's, he's newly into it. This is probably his first time around doing it. This is OEL's like second, third time going through this. Yeah. His career's only going to go so long. He doesn't want to stick around for it to just bite him in the ass three years later again. But I was showing Colton when we were outside. Just basically, it was Connor Garland talking about getting traded to Vancouver, and he was saying along the lines of, it's just nice to go somewhere where you're actually wanted, because Arizona wasn't communicating with him on a contract or anything or re-signing. So seems like they're just kind of trying to chuck those guys away and get them out of the area. So
on the surface, I loved this from Vancouver. You dump 3 bad salaries, and you bring in 2 guys that can both contribute. And I mean, Ekman-Larsson's salary is not great, but love Connor Garland. Ekman-Larsson can contribute. That on the surface looks like a good deal. But when you think about it, Beagle, Roussel, and what's his name, Eriksson,
Louis Eriksson,
all have 1 year left on their deals. So combined, they have a $12 million cap hit. I think Connor Garland, I think he's value. He's a good player, definitely a good part of the deal. But you're still locked in on paying Ekman-Larsson $7 million a year. That's include his cap hit is 8.25. 12% brings it down to just around 7 that Vancouver will be paying for the next 6 years. And you can't tell me that you want to be paying Ekman-Larsson $6 million, $7 million 4 years from now, never mind 6 years from now. So it's like, do you really think that you're going to win this next year? Because that's the only reason that you dump that cap. Otherwise, you just wait 1 more year and you have all those contracts off your books and you're good to go. Instead, you've traded that for probably better players, but 6 more years of cap hell with Ekman-Larsson's contract. So I think on balance, I don't like this deal from Vancouver. I think it could work out, but if it does, they're probably still going to hate themselves by the end of the Ekman-Larsson contract.
Should have just taken Garland.
Yeah.
Leave OEL in
I don't know why. I kind of think that OEL is going to work out for them, to be honest.
For 6 years, though?
I don't know, man. Like, there's still, we're talking about Ekholm, Matthias Ekholm. He's 36 years old. He's still a really good defenseman. There's still guys that are really good later on into their years. So,
That's true.
I mean, I think OEL will be good for Quinn Hughes, to be honest. It'll maybe kind of take off that time where he's needs a second to breathe, because with the way when I think about these trades, I think about like when I look at the team that I watch all the time, Colton, McCarr, me, like Shabbat or someone like that, and Mike. I don't really know who's on Florida defense, but you kind of think about it like, all right, is this going to ease the minutes off these younger guys so they can actually have a second to think about what mistake they just made and what they did well in that play to kind of get the puck up the ice. So I think it'll be good for them.
Yeah,
to kind of
that's a good
lessen
point.
the load on Quinn Hughes.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It could turn to shit.
Yeah,
you never know.
Yeah, I mean, so he'll be 36 at the end of this deal. So the age of what's his name, Ekholm, is right now. So I mean, it's possible it'll work out. You never know. And a lot of those
they got strong.
A lot of those long
strong
deals.
Swedish ties.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
This is why we need
holy
person.
Holy fuck, dude. But a lot of those long deals, like you end up the last couple of years not quite getting value on them, just because that's what you pay for getting the maybe a little bit of discount at the front end of the deal. But we'll have to see. I mean, I think you're probably right. It could end up being good for Vancouver. I just don't know. I don't know how much I trust Ekman Larsson. I mean, maybe he'll turn it around, but I don't think he's been great the last couple of years.
No.
But, that's possible. It's just because he was in Arizona and didn't want to be there.
Yep.
And, it's Arizona.
It gives talk to more subjects and everything in the future for the Pond that we can come back and see how they're doing and give you a little update and everything.
Yeah.
The only thing I was going to say was that the Sedins still work for the Canucks, I'm pretty sure. So maybe they'll work some Swedish magic like Stevie Y in Detroit. It seems to just be making another super team in Detroit, just like Tampa Bay. And he'll probably just move on to the next team.
Yeah, that's a great transition too, because maybe this should be a recurring segment, the Stevie Y mind control, because what the fuck was that Nedeljkovic deal?
Oh my god, he got fleeced. They left him open for the expansion draft, and then Stevie Y is like, "Oh, Seattle didn't take him in the expansion draft. Yeah, I'll have him for $3.50, like $3.50. Large double from Tim
Hortons."
Dude, I don't know what Carolina was thinking on this one.
Yeah.
Like, did you guys see Yeah. Did you see the interview or press conference Yzerman did where they asked him what? Yeah. And he was like, "Yeah, I don't really know why they made that deal, but
you didn't have to ask them why they
were comfortable with it."
It's like, I think all of us want to know. Let's ask
them.
Carolina Hurricanes, if you're listening to this.
What the fuck?
What the hell, man?
What happened? What happened?
We're trying to root for you and make a trade like that.
Yeah, man. Because, so Nedeljkovic signed a 2-year, $3.5 million a year deal, or no, 2-year, $3 million a year deal in Detroit. And
deal.
The trade was Nedeljkovic for Vegas's 3rd round pick in this draft and the rights to negotiate with Jonathan Bernier. So I guess Mrazek and Reimer are both not signed right now. So Bernier probably ends up signing in Carolina. Maybe a Bernier-Mrazek tandem. I'm not really sure there. But, dude.
Was that a combo, Reimer and Bernier, at one point in Toronto?
I don't know. I actually have no idea. I kind of forgot.
That's a good point.
I kind of forgot Bernier even played in Toronto. But dude, if you're Carolina, just freaking paid Nedeljkovic $3.5 million. What? Doesn't make any sense.
See, and the thing that I was thinking immediately after this was okay, why didn't in like I don't know. There's other guys on the team that are making more money than what Nedeljkovic is now making in Detroit.
Yeah.
That I would have been like, you know what, this guy can go, and then fucking we'll get Nedeljkovic is going to be the guy for a long time. They just gave away the future of their goaltending for rights.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. You're going to end up probably paying Mrazek or Bernier more than what Nedeljkovic was asking for, which is 100%. Like makes even less sense.
Even if it's 0.5 of a million more, it's like, come on.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Also, Bernier and Reimer were teammates for 3 years. So
nice. There you go, bud.
Yeah. Absolute. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
I mean, please make the playoff.
The one justification I've heard is Nedeljkovic, they're saying, I mean, he's 25 years old, wasn't an incredible AHL goalie. So they're saying, look, he played like 28 games this year and was great, but did he suddenly become a great goalie, or did he hit a hot streak at the right time? And so they're like, maybe you cash out, you parlay that for a third round and Jonathan Bernier, who you kind of know what you're getting from. I'm not sure I buy it because 25 seems to be about the age where goalies like end up panning out. Like, it's like the young goalies that pop off like Demko and Carter Hart are the exception to the rule. I mean, most goalies don't win a starting job till they're in their mid-20s. So I hate this from Carolina. Like, God damn it.
I didn't like it. And it's exactly what you're saying. Like with the third rounder, like just getting Jonathan Bernier, I mean, he was a starter for Detroit this year, and he played decently well for being on a pretty bad team. Detroit didn't come last. They actually finished in a decent spot. You could see improvement happening and that they were potentially going to be a good team in the future. But the fact that it was a third rounder, like if you take away Bernier for Nedeljkovic, it's just a third rounder. Seeing that these teams are throwing around second and third rounders in the draft just to move back or move up 10 spots, it just doesn't seem worth it to me when you could potentially have just, gained one of those by moving back 10 spots in a draft that you could probably have a lot better of a chance not getting someone like Nedeljkovic again. So
yeah, exactly.
It just didn't really make sense.
And I mean, combine this with the second trade Carolina made, trading Jake Bean to Columbus for a second-round pick. This one actually makes way, way less sense to me than the Nedeljkovic one. I don't even know what to say about this. Like, Jake Bean is a legit, like, this was his rookie season. Jake Bean is a legit NHL defenseman. He showed it this year as a rookie. And you're trading him, like one of your good young defenseman prospects, for a second-round pick? Like, what?
It's disgraceful. I just don't.
Yeah, I don't. You don't really know what to say because it's kind of like one of those slow bleeding effects that hopefully this does. Like, I do like Carolina, man.
Yeah.
Like, they're fun to watch.
Yeah.
And to see them kind of like drown, like, you hope to see this isn't the start of something that they kind of do every season if they don't make it to the spot they want to do, that they just start cutting it off. Because you can see it happening with some teams like Vegas where they start to trim stuff off, and then at a certain point where if you trim some off, they haven't cut your own right arm off too, right? So, I don't know.
It sucks. Like, think about it too. Steve was in the taxi squad with Geeky and Jake Bean.
Yep.
And now both of them are gone, and he's still there. And it's like, man, Geeky and Bean were both playing as well with Steve. So, like, is he next? It's just horrible.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and it's the sort of thing. Like, they have a lot of people to sign. Like, they've got Paquette. I think Martiniuk they have to re-sign. What's his name? Another guy on that fourth line. I forget his name. But
McGinn?
Brock McGinn. But you look at those guys and you're like, yeah, those are very good, like bottom six veteran NHL players other than McGinn. But Paquette and Martiniuk been around. You know what you're going to get from them. Great. But you look at someone like Geeky, you look at someone like Jake Bean, although Geeky they didn't really have a choice with, but Jake Bean, you look at that guy and it's like, you might be losing Dougie Hamilton. You have a great decor. This guy is someone that can probably not replace Dougie Hamilton right away, but is a good puck-moving defenseman. You can rely on him in your top 4. There's absolutely no reason to give up on this kid. And to trade him for a second-round pick, like I'm pretty sure Bean went in the first round. So it's like you're downgrading. And even in the second round, the odds of you getting a player of Jake Bean's quality, I'd say is low. Like, not all second-round picks hit. So it just feels like an unnecessary trade too. Like, why did you have to do that?
Yeah, it seems weird in the sense I can relate to it, not all the time because it is kind of miserable. But you develop the talent and then you just kind of trade them off. All right, and Delkovich, you had in your minors, you drafted him, you produced him, and then boom, he had a good year and you traded him off. Yeah. Why did you just develop a player of that caliber just to trade them off for an asset that they're obviously worth more of if you give them another year?
Yeah.
At least. So
it's weird. I mean, you gotta hope maybe they bring back Ducky now, or maybe they're looking at some other free agent signings to kind of redeem themselves here, but it's a little bit scary because it's really hard to see the thought process behind why you make those moves. So, and I really, I want Carolina to be good. Would love to see, obviously, Steve get a cup. And they're a fun team to root for, man. Like, they're easy to root for, but it's like, damn, dude, are you trying to make your team worse? Like, shit.
Yeah, it's just an unnecessary risk.
Yeah, exactly. But I think
this could not to extend this any longer. This is the last thing I want to say, but maybe this is one of the cases of Carolina being bad for a decent amount of time that they are still prone to making that all right, we could still have a down year next year, when in reality they're probably going to still be one of the better teams this year. Mm-hmm. So maybe they're still at fault of those old problems that they used to have where they would think they're good and all that stuff. So you never know. Yeah,
no, it's true that they're kind of stuck in that mindset. And you got to hope it's not the owner not wanting to spend. That's the other thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Hopefully the owner is actually willing to spend the money because you've just got your fan base back. Like, frickin' do something with it, But we've got, we're already at an hour, past an hour, and we still got to talk entry draft. We don't have to talk too much about this because obviously none of us are scouts. So we're kind of going off what people are saying other than the occasional pick here and there. But Owen Power, first overall, going to Buffalo. Looks like he'll probably go back to Michigan still. Matty Beniers at 2 to Seattle. Mason McTavish going to Anaheim. Luke Hughes joining his brother friggin' Shitty Hughes in New Jersey. And Kent Johnson at 5 to Columbus. What's the actual Hughes' name? Fucking God damn it.
Luke.
No. The one that already plays for
Jack.
Yeah.
There it is. Nice.
Yeah.
But first of all, 4 of the top 5 picks either currently play or are about to play for the Michigan Wolverines. Freaking decent NCAA, decent program they've got going on there. Holy shit.
Creates a lot of hype, man.
Yeah.
Creates a lot of hype. I think this is going to be the draft where there's a lot of players just because of how it all played out. There's a lot of NCAA players this year because they actually had kind of a season compared to the WHL, OHL, and everything.
Yeah.
It was a very big unknown in terms of who's getting drafted. So I think a lot of them will probably go back this year to their college teams, except for a few like Matty Benier or whatever, Beniers, whatever you say, and a few other players that are needed on their teams now. So, and just with the, not to go off too much further, but with the centers, because we were talking about it, be watching it around the fire the one night, and you could just see center, left wing, defenseman, center, left wing, right wing, defenseman, center, there's a lot of centers going in this draft, so
Yeah.
maybe it's a gamble on just that they're more valuable and that they can kind of be a better gamble in terms of not seeing how they actually play. So
Yeah. Well, and hey, it's easier to teach a center how to play wing than the other way around, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm pretty hyped. I really like Beniers, or however the hell you say it. From what I've read, yeah, well, from what I've read, this guy's an absolute monster. Like, they're saying this guy probably won't be a first line in the NHL, but he is like the epitome of what you want as a second line center. Like, this guy is gonna kick the shit out of whoever he's playing against, has the skill, and works his cock off. So I really like that pick, especially for the Kraken. He'll probably play in the NHL this year. And it's one of those picks where I think a lot of this draft, you're not looking for a home run. You're looking for a solid NHLer. And I think they definitely hit the mark here. And I mean, I'm excited to see it because I got to say, I'm not entirely convinced by Owen Power, especially going to Buffalo. He feels like the type of player that, were he on a team where he could be protected a little bit, play with like a number one guy and kind of learn under them, could turn into a great player. But I don't see him as the guy that's going to like turn the franchise around and be that like number one D-man that just makes their team good. So I don't know, man.
he reminds me of a Nolan Patrick, just kind of a player going to a team.
Yeah,
So,
well, and like
we'll have to.
He has all the physical attributes to make a really good NHL defenseman, but like I feel like oftentimes scouts value that too highly and then don't look at like, wait, is this guy actually good at hockey? And not to say that he's bad at hockey. Like, I'm sure he'll play a long career in the NHL, but it's like first overall, probably not the value that you would get out of first OVs in other years.
a defenseman first OV too, so
Yeah.
not the most common either.
No, it's true. And that's two that Buffalo's got between him and Dahlin. So hopefully they can put something together there. For Dahlin's sake, man, I feel bad for that kid.
I was going to say, because Dahlin ain't doing shit.
Yeah, man.
I wonder if. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's good. All you, bud.
I was gonna say, it's been a couple years since the first overall pick has been like a game changer in the NHL. So I'm wondering if this is going to be the year that breaks it, or if
I think Aaron Ekblad was probably the last one that was actually decent.
Yeah.
Was he after McDavid?
Well, like defenseman.
Okay. I was gonna say,
talking like I'm talking like first overall, like very first pick.
Ekblad was first OB.
Yeah. There's been other than like McDavid. I mean, you know.
Yeah, it's true actually. Yeah.
So I'm wondering who's going to be the guy that breaks that, like comes into the league, and he doesn't need to have an exceptional season, but fits into the NHL like seamlessly. You know what I mean? Because there's been guys that have gone like second, third, fourth, fifth that have, but
yeah. Well, sometimes it's hard to hit with that first. If I had to put money on it, I'd say it's going to be Bed Guy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Or Shane Wright.
Yeah. Those kids look like freaking absolute money.
Yeah, they look like phenom.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But one last thing we got to talk about in the draft is the Montreal Canadiens coming in with a very spicy pick, going with Logan Mailloux at 31st overall. Now, for those of you who don't know, there we go. For those of you who don't know, Logan Mailloux, I believe he plays for the London Knights. Spent this past season on loan at a third division Swedish team. I don't know the name of the team actually, but basically, SK Lejeune in Sweden's third division. But he's been charged and convicted of distributing like a sexual photo without the consent of the girl. So I think he paid a fine in Sweden, and I don't know if he had to do community service or if he said he's in therapy. But basically last week, like the week before the draft, he came out and said after all of this came out, he was basically like, look, I'm recusing myself from the draft. I don't feel that like being drafted in the NHL is a big deal. I don't feel that I have like represented myself well enough to deserve a chance to be drafted. I ask that I don't be drafted this year, and I have a chance to go back to the London Knights and build myself and prove to people and to myself that I am like deserving of a draft pick in the NHL entry draft. At which point, I mean, I think we've seen like there are a lot of young people. I think we saw one in last year's draft that Arizona drafted and then had to like bail on, that don't handle situations like this all that well. So I would say, all else being equal, I would say that Logan has handled this situation relatively maturely compared to what we see some other people do. But Montreal went ahead and drafted him anyways, which is a bold move. Go ahead, Kurt.
I think he's one of those guys where, I mean, from my perspective, he's a young kid and everything.
Yeah.
When I was younger at that age, I've made decisions like not comparable, but I've made decisions that I've regretted, down the line, that I've matured and obviously figured it out. He's young. He was 17 when he did it. I think he wants to actually prove people that he is not like that and that he can mature. So I think he wants to earn people's trust right away. You don't have to kind of love him right now and anything, but later down the line, hopefully you can show people that that's not him, and he's learned from that lesson and can move on from there, because he's a good hockey player. So you don't want to just give up on people like that because they made one bad mistake, in my opinion.
No, I totally agree. I totally agree. Like,
you got to give everyone a second shot.
Yeah, and he's young. It's a mistake, and he's obviously paid the price for it, and has shown remorse. Right? Like, remember the Arizona kid last year, and he like absolutely was like over his head. Like, no, I didn't do anything wrong, basically. And in that case, that's a different story. But this kid has definitely like taken the input and been like, okay, like I need to kind of look at myself and reflect a little bit here. And I think that's really mature for someone 17, 18 years old, right? It's easy for kids that age to not do that. I think it reflects more poorly on the Canadiens organization, especially as he's asked not to get drafted. Like, I think it was in a press conference, a reporter asked, I don't know who it was. It was like the head of scouting. They asked what, like he said this, that he doesn't deserve to be drafted. Why do you disagree with that? And it was followed by about 40 seconds of silence because the guy had nothing. Like, and it's a good question, right? So I assume Mailloux will be playing in the OHL again this next year. There's no way he's gonna sign a pro deal quite yet. But just kind of a weird decision from the Canadiens organization here, especially after such a great year, kind of tarnishing the look a little bit with that one. But I agree with you, Kurt, that you gotta, like, the guy's entire life and career can't be defined by one mistake made when he's 17. So I believe in him getting his chance. It's just a little bit weird to me to draft him in that situation, because like you don't very often see someone ask to not get drafted. Yeah,
that was the weirder part about it.
Yeah, 100%.
Is how they did it, and especially being in the first round too.
Yeah,
like,
and
people were talking about doing it in the second round, which I can understand why Montreal would want to jump up and just use theirs, because it's almost basically a second round pick.
Yeah.
But obviously they're the ones that did it still. So
yeah,
you can talk about doing it and then it never happens, but they're actually pulled the trigger on the situation.
Yeah. Well, and it's weird too, because he said like they didn't get in contact with him or anything. Like he wasn't expecting to get drafted. So it's like kind of out of the blue from them. Maybe they thought someone else would take him before 31. I'm not sure. But I think that's unfortunately one of the bigger stories out of the draft. Which, it's not the most fun to talk about, but it's worth a mention.
It was also like a lot of family drafts this year, which was awesome. Like We saw it started with the whole Hughes brothers, and then later down the line,
Kirby.
Kirby,
Shane
Docs,
Doan's
Colton
son.
Doc.
Shane Doan's son,
Dude.
Ottawa pick, Tyler Boucher, his dad,
yeah,
analyst.
McCarr.
Kale McCarr's brother,
McCarr.
McCarr's brother.
We were just like kind of in and out of the draft this year, just watching it.
Oh, and the Flurries too on Seattle.
Yeah. I don't think they're related
So-
though, are they?
I'm almost like 90% sure they are.
True.
I don't know.
I honestly have no clue.
Yeah, bro, they are. Yeah.
Because I think I saw them talking about it. Oh yeah, it's so sweet to be on. Oh, okay, so I was like, all right.
And here's the real question. Tampa Bay coming in with the last pick of the draft, 224 overall. Nico Huutonen, right winger. How many points is he putting up in the NHL? I'm going with 120.
This is like a Huutonen?
Hootin' and hollering.
Huutonen, yeah.
I'm saying, but
Fuck you, Colton.
dude, there was a guy that went in the
Why not?
the first or second round. His name was Cameron or something. Why not? Like WHYNOT. I was like, oh, that's an interesting last name. But yeah, I gotta pick him, right? So
I'm trying to find him.
Hilarious.
yeah, I'm not sure where exactly he went, but the fact that it said why not, I was just awesome. What do we think, you guys?
That's probably good for the Epi. I'm thinking
we're up there. We're
stuff.
hitting close to an hour and a half. So,
This might be one of the last good hockey talks we have in a while before it gets truly into silly season.
Yeah.
And we start talking about how bad my slices and
oh my
how
god,
shittered I was on the last 18.
don't even
I
get me
haven't played any
started,
golf in a week. So.
boys. Yeah, I mean we'll get into it probably next week, but I shot my career low 89 last Wednesday, so fired up about that. Drove a green for the first time ever.
Yeah.
Let's go, baby.
Let's go, baby. Let's
go. So you said previously, let the fin begin, baby.
Yeah, exactly. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. If you're still listening, we appreciate you a lot. Go follow us on our socials. We'll have all of them in the description of the podcast. If you're not subscribed on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen, please go ahead and do so if you haven't already. And this has been a big episode. So if you made it this far, holy shit, you're a trooper.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
But, hey, you're deserving of the next prize that we do.
Yeah, on our next giveaway that we will do very much in the near future. So everybody keep listening, keep tuning in, and we hope that you enjoyed the episode. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll catch you guys next weekend. So from all of us here at the pond, Pepe.
What up?